Hello, my name is Maddie Rutter, and I'm with the Program on the Environment. The title of my project is Citizen Science, Best Practices for Connecting with the More Than Human World. Now, to start, over time, I've learned a lot about colonialism and how colonial values have affected other cultures, and also how they've influenced environmental decisions made in our Western society today. I was specifically interested in how this affected our connection to nature. And from my background research, I found that having a strong relationship to your environment is really critical to having healthy humans, non-humans, and then just ecosystems in their entirety. Unfortunately, though, Western society does not prioritize this connection, and many people now spend more time inside than out. On the bright side, I did find that nature-based citizen science, or NBCS, which is when the public participates in natural science and is working with professional scientists, I found it to have a lot of potential in restoring this relationship because the public gets to learn about and interact with their environment while also giving back. And this is really important because NBCS initiatives like this are able to create environmental citizens. And this helps encode pro-environmental values into communities and helps citizens understand, learn about, respect, and just like celebrate their environment in general. So my background research led me to developing my research question, which is what are some best practices for creating a nature-based citizen science initiative that's going to increase their participants' connectedness to nature? To answer this question, I interned with Stillwater's Environmental Center, which is involved in NBCS. And there I worked with staff and volunteers on various fieldwork projects, such as monitoring Sitka spruce tree mortality, estuary water quality, and profiling beaches. I also wrote educational material for use by the local high school that will work with Stillwaters on occasion. And then to support my research, as I was working on site at Stillwaters, I was able to collect personal observations. This was because I was considerably new to fieldwork and could therefore act as a guinea pig citizen scientist. This was great because a lot of the projects that we were working on, Stillwaters hoped to be involving the community in the future, and I could also take personal observations. Secondly, I administered online surveys to the general public and Stillwater's Environmental Center volunteers. I wanted to find out about their connection to nature, what motivated them to volunteer in the first place, and the benefits that they felt after volunteering. And last but not least, I collected data through literary research, where I looked at literature on citizen science and connection to nature. Now, moving on to results. Initially, I wanted to know if those that were involved in restoration volunteer work even had a stronger connection to nature in the first place. So in figure 1, using R, I analyzed 67 survey responses and found that there was a slightly higher connection to nature in those who had participated in restoration-based volunteer work. I also found that NBCS initiatives who incorporated participatory leadership, active learning, and who evoked emotion in their volunteers were better at increasing their volunteers' connectedness to nature. For example, an initiative with participatory leadership is able to understand their volunteers and use that information to design projects to be co-creative and engage the citizen throughout the entire process. Through my literary research, one major critique I saw was that NBCS programs, more often than not, only really include their citizens in the data collection aspect of the project. So there really needs to be more emphasis on initial project development and inclusion in analysis after. In figure 2, I attempted to understand Stillwater's volunteers' motivations and benefits. Some of what I found was that people felt they contributed more to science than expected, and that they had more fun than expected, but perhaps wanted to connect more to nature and socialize more. Next, an example of an initiative with good active learning incorporated means that their volunteers are able to understand the nature of science. This is done through facilitating science learning goals and creating efficient and effective trainings, along with consistent protocol. One observation I made as I returned to work at Stillwaters each week was that I felt more comfortable. I could do more advanced work, and most importantly, I learned a lot more each day. And then last but not least, an NBCS initiative needs to embrace emotion in their project, throughout their projects, and in their volunteers. I've noticed a lot of just science in general and projects in science are very objective. So evoking emotion is important, and it can be done by telling a story, using evocative language, and cultivating a sense of place. To the upper right, image 1, I was able to observe my coworker Hannah explain the history of the estuary that we were working on, and how projects intertwine with that history. And I thought that this was just a really great way to kind of evoke emotion in the volunteers there. And then last but not least, we have implications and next steps. As I've said before, NBCS initiatives are really great at creating communities that are going to value and understand and celebrate their environment. And other programs should really try and incorporate these same best practices. And they can do this by evaluating their volunteers' connection to nature, training staff on these best practices, and then just looking at other programs that are already implementing some of them, like Stillwaters. So yeah, that's kind of the overview of my project. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.